Mooney moving. That's fired, that's caught, and that is Hodge, and Hodge is going to take it to the end zone.
The NFC West has been a highly competitive division for the last few years for all the wrong reasons. It's been so competitive because it's been painfully average. Apart from the Tom Brady Bucs Super Bowl, this division has been pretty uneventful and average. This very well could be the year where that changes, as I liked a lot of these offseason moves from these teams, but I also hated a few. In this video, I'm going to be giving my record prediction for each team in the division, and at the end, telling you who I think will win the division and earn themselves a top 4 seed in the playoffs. Thank you for clicking on this video, and let's talk about it.
Smith-Schuster, and there he is, Colin Saunders.
And he took it out.
Big Colin rumbling, and out across the 30.
Coming in at number 4 at last place, I have the New Orleans Saints. The Saints had a rough offseason to say the least. They did a few nice things like bring in safety Justin Reed to pair with Tyrann Mathieu from Kansas City, and I think it was a smart move to re-sign Chase Young off the edge. Outside of that, though, there really isn't much to like about their free agency period. They were rather quiet, which makes sense because they are in salary cap hell, but regardless, the team didn't get a whole lot better. Derek Carr informed the team just recently that he will be retiring from the NFL, so the Saints lost their starting quarterback just before minicamp. Carr wasn't exactly an all-pro in NOLA, but he was a solid starter and a veteran to lead their offense. They inadvertently drafted his replacement in the second round in Tyler Shuck from Louisville, but we'll get to that in a moment. The Saints used most all of their available money to keep players on the team rather than bring too many in, which I think is troubling considering it's the same team that just went 5-12 last season with all of these guys on the team. Not to say it's their fault, but you would think that they'd like to bring in some fresh talent out of free agency and try to create something new, but they opted not to do that. Their offseason was pretty boring, but their draft at least went a little bit better. They took offensive tackle Kelvin Banks in the first round, which I actually did like this pick, as I always think if you're rebuilding, you start with the offensive line, and Banks was by far the best tackle available. I like the value of linebacker Danny Stutzman in the 4th round out of Oklahoma, and running back Devin Neal all the way in the 6th round, as I view both of these picks as steals. The pick I was very confused about was Tyler Shuck in the 2nd round. I didn't mind Shuck as a prospect, but he didn't blow me away on film at all. I understand Shedeur Sanders fell all the way to the 5th round, and he more than likely wasn't even on the Saints draft board, but I would have much preferred the talent of Shedeur over Shuck. I understand he's a head case with an annoying father, but the player is far more polished than Louisville's Tyler Shuck in my opinion. Moving on from that though, I wasn't a huge fan of their 3rd round selection in Jonas Sanker and Vernon Broughton, as I feel like there were better available players at their positions that they passed on. Outside of the roster acquisition, I did like the Kellen Moore hire, as they needed a creative offensive mind at the helm in my opinion. I think Moore could do really well as the head coach and was likely the top available candidate when they hired him. All in all, this team seems about the same to me. I think Kellen Moore might be creative enough to steal a couple more wins than last year, but overall, I don't see a great team here. I have them with a record of 6-11 with a ceiling of 9-8 and a floor of 4-13.
Field Carolina. Shotgun, Young. Deep one. Caught over the shoulder by Thielen. Touchdown, Panthers. 40 yards.
Coming in at number 3 at 3rd place in the division, I have the Carolina Panthers. I really liked what the Panthers did this offseason, as I talked about it in my top 5 offseasons video already. Make sure to check that out, so I'll just skim through it this time. The free agency consisted of some pretty solid guys, and they addressed clear holes. Defensive tackle Trayshawn Wharton was a solid signing, although maybe slightly overpaid. Bobby Brown III was a great signing on a cheap deal, as he's one of the better run stoppers they have now. They added Rico Dowdle to the running back room behind Chuba Hubbard, and he should be a solid change of pace back. They also knocked the draft out of the park, bringing in Tedero McMillan from Arizona, a massive new target for Bryce Young. Nick Scorton was great value in the 2nd round, along with Cam Jackson in the 5th, who is another really big run stopper up the middle. They had other additions as well, but if you want to see those, you can check out the other video. Their offseason was pretty fantastic in my opinion, and this team got a whole lot better on both sides of the ball, and should be a team that performs much better than their 5-12 season just a year ago. I see the Panthers at a record of 8-9 with a ceiling of 10-7 and a floor of 6-11. I think no matter what happens next year, we see a much improved Panthers team.
Second down and 9, pump fake, it is deflected and picked off by Anderson. And he will take it all the way.
Coming in at second place, I have the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons were pretty average last year, but considering they benched their starting quarterback mid-season, it was a better year than expected. This is a pretty young team with a lot of fresh talent offensively, and after the draft, defensively as well. Overall, I think they have some more developing to do as a whole, but especially at the quarterback position. I like the potential of Michael Penix Jr. a lot, and I think he looked a lot better than some skeptics thought he would look after he was rushed to start earlier than they wanted. He has great accuracy and really showed some flashes of being a franchise guy. He has all the weapons in the world to do it as well, with the underrated Drake London, Darnell Mooney, who was an 1,000-yard receiver last year, a young and versatile Kyle Pitts at tight end, and one of the better running backs in the game in Bijan Robinson, and behind him, Tyler Algier. The offensive line is solid as well, as they have at least 3 very solid guys on the unit going into 2026. The defense improved massively over the offseason, bringing in Leonard Floyd from the Niners and drafted 2 edge rushers to go with him in the first round of the draft, Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. I didn't like what they had to give up to go up and get Pierce, but regardless, they have him now, and they've added 3 high-priority edge rushers to their defense when that was their largest hole going into this offseason. Their secondary is pretty solid, with A.J. Terrell leading the way and the re-signing of Mike Hughes, and their line has gotten a little better with the edge rushing addition. They may be more vulnerable to the run, however, after losing star defensive tackle Grady Jarrett to the Bears. Overall, I think this team got a little bit better this offseason, but I don't know how much their record changes on the back of a first-year starting quarterback. They went 8-9 last year, and this year I see them at a record of 10-7 with a ceiling of 12-5 and a floor of 7-10. Regardless, they're a team to look out for, and maybe could even surprise some people if Penix can have a breakout year.
Looking for loss of a couple of yards. Second and goal. Mayfield caught, extending, touchdown, Buccaneers. Cade Otton, the time.
Coming in at first place in the winner of the division, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs had a very quiet offseason with almost no activity in free agency at all. They re-signed Chris Godwin, which is a huge move for them, as he had a much larger offer waiting for him in New England, and they made one splash with Hassan Reddick. Other than that, it was crickets from the Bucs, but I don't really think it's that big of a deal. They have a well-established team with a lot of veterans in starting positions and a lot of experience. Baker Mayfield has proven to be a very solid quarterback in this league and someone who plays with a motor that just doesn't quit. The duo of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin will always be dangerous, and their running game, now led by Bucky Irving, has the potential to be explosive. Their defense is always one of my favorites because of the complexity of Todd Bowles' scheme. He's blitz heavy and occasionally even uses some Tampa 2, which I really enjoy seeing. They have a solid defensive line with a decent secondary and a good group of linebackers, and I believe they did great in the draft as well. Bringing in wide receiver Emeka Egbuka in the first round is great, as he can add some much needed slot help and maybe even open some more windows for Mike Evans and Chris Godwin to get open. They got a steal with Benjamin Morrison in the second round, in my opinion, as he was one of the best available players at that point, and adding Jacob Parrish from Kansas State was great value as well at the nickel and at the same position. And not to mention how good even Tez Johnson has looked so far in their rookie minicamp. Overall, I see this team as very well-rounded and experienced with a really solid coaching staff. I think they're similar to the Falcons with just a slight edge over them because of experience. I have the Bucs at 11-6 with a ceiling of 13-4 and a floor of 8-9. If everyone stays healthy, they are a playoff contender and a team to keep your eye on.